Rollins every week saying, God, I just hope he gets his butt kicked. But that's exactly what you wanted. You wanted him to say, I want Rollins to get his butt kicked. I want Lesnar to get his butt kicked. I wanted Randy Orton to get his butt kicked. And now suddenly Sheamus, he's just like, yeah, I'm not watching this. That's when you've obviously gone overboard. And, you know, the thing is, now we've got this early inkling of what they're doing with Reigns. Basically, at the TLC, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs pay-per-view we've got coming up this Sunday night, the 13th of December, we've got the rematch, Reigns versus Sheamus. I can go ahead and tell you, Reigns isn't beating Sheamus at TLC because TLC is an extremely minor pay-per-view. You know, you've got the big three, which is the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and SummerSlam. Mm-hmm. If you're going to put the title on someone like Roman Reigns, who you want to push as the next face of your company, you're doing it at one of the big shows where you're going to have a big audience watching. So, I mean, the TLC match, yeah, I'm going to be on the way back from being out of the country. I'm not so worried about missing the pay-per-view. And Ed, you know me. I mean, I make you pre-tape all of our shows on pay-per-view nights.
Oh yeah, I know.
I'm already just not interested in this pay-per-view because I know it's going to be status quo. WWE at this point look like they are trying to run a storyline that was highly successful 2 years ago when Daniel Bryan eventually won the world title. And that is that Bryan had to constantly overcome being pushed down, and he kept getting back up and coming back. Here's the difference in why that story worked for Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan's 5'9" and weighs about 210 pounds. And as they like to say, looks like a goat-faced troll.
Yeah.
He is Daniel Bryan is an everyman. He's not cut. He's in good shape, don't get me wrong. He's not cut. He doesn't have abs. He doesn't have big biceps. His face does not make the ladies swoon. Now, that said, he did get to marry a Bella twin.
Yeah.
But he married the one without the boobs. The one with the boobs dates John Cena, of course. But, I mean, it has been eerie thus far what they've done because so much of this reminds you of late 2013, early 2014 when Bryan was chasing the title and eventually won it at WrestleMania in one of the greatest WrestleMania main events of all time. In a WrestleMania that went down in memory as one of the best of all time, WrestleMania 30, and a big portion of that was because of Daniel Bryan. It's almost like Vince McMahon has looked and said, oh, well, you know, that worked 2 years ago. Damn it, let's do it again.
Good Vince McMahon.
Thank you. But it's like, but Vince, this guy he is the exact opposite from an underdog. He's Roman fucking Reigns. You promo this guy as the Roman Empire, which was never an underdog to anyone. If you remember, the Roman Empire was definitely not an underdog. And it's almost like, you know, here's one of the problems with WWE is Vince McMahon at the end of the day, WWE has all these writers. They have all these people who contribute to the creative process of WWE. And at the end of the day, everything they put in, at the end of the day, the final say is Vince McMahon. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't like it, that's not what you're going to do. And you're not going to tell him any different. This comes about because, once again, those other two great eras, the rock and wrestling, the mid-'80s, the late 90s, early 2000s, Vince McMahon was calling the shots on those, and he got it right. Vince McMahon, therefore, almost has kind of this mentality of a big-time stockbroker. Mm-hmm. You know, hey, I've been getting it right all my life. I'm never going to get it wrong. Well, you know what? Eventually, someday, you get it wrong.
Yeah. Eventually,
one day, you lose the it factor that made you who you were. Vince McMahon is 70 years old. Think about that. 30 years ago, when he was 40, was rock and wrestling.
Yeah.
20 years ago, when he was 50, was the Attitude Era. You know, at some point, it just passes you by.
Right.
But the problem is, and the next problem is that there is no one in the company who can stand up to Vince McMahon because he still has the power to hire and fire as he pleases.
Mm-hmm.
So if you tell him, dude, that's stupid, that's not going to work, Vince McMahon has a massive ego and he's just going to fire you.
Yeah.
So no one at WWE has the balls to stand up to Vince McMahon and tell him, this is stupid, you're killing the product.
So I guess the biggest question I have is, and because you've said it a lot tonight, the problem is, what is the solution?
The solution, here's my thing. This actually, see, the thing is with wrestling, you can always parallel it to another era because, I mean, here's the deal. There's nothing really new in wrestling. It's just how long has it not been done that we can recycle it?
Right.
When you look back at those two great eras, there was an era in between them that was kind of called the New Generation, where ratings dipped, the product got pretty shitty for a while, and it's almost like, you know, you heard the song, you got to go through hell before you get to heaven?
Mm-hmm.
They almost had to do that. I mean, this was an era where, you know, Vince McMahon had not grasped yet that reality was coming in. This is an era we had wrestlers named Duke the Dumpster Drosy, who his gimmick was he was a trash man by day and a wrestler by night.
Sure.
We had a guy called the Goon, who came out wearing hockey skates and hockey pads.
That makes sense.
Wrestled in skates, mind you. Great shit. We had Doink the Clown. What? He was a full-on clown. That said, now, if you actually watch Doink, he was actually a really good wrestler. But that's beside the fact. The gimmicks were horrible. The ratings were shit. That was the point the company actually almost went bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of other things going on. There was a steroid scandal from the late 80s, early 90s that was going on. But you know what happened in that, Ed, is the guys from the 80s, Hulk Hogan,
mm-hmm.
Randy Savage, Roddy Piper, who, you know, I love Roddy Piper.
Oh yeah.
You know, these guys who were the mainstays of WWF in the 80s and the early 90s, Vince McMahon made a decision mostly because of financial reasons that, you know, I'm not going to keep these guys anymore. I'm going to let them go. And they went to the competition, and initially they strengthened the competition. What Vince McMahon had to do, because he had to strip down the product, he had to make it raw.
Oh. Man.
Henceforth, that came the name of the show, Monday Night Raw, because it was so raw and stripped down, they couldn't even give them free coffee in the back because it cost money, and they didn't have any money. What they had to do at that point was they had to develop a new generation of stars. And there was about a 3-4 year period there where it was brutal. A lot of the stuff sucked. But what they did, Ed, is they developed guys. They had to give guys a chance to get over, and they did. And the next thing you know, these guys are the backbone of the Attitude Era. Shawn Michaels, who I've told you, you know, is my absolute favorite wrestler of all time. He got his break during this new generation era, new blood era, whatever they want to call it. You know, he was a guy who wasn't your typical 6'7", 300-pound muscle man. Shawn Michaels was 6'1", weighed about 215, and was a high flyer who goes down, in the words with Ric Flair, as being the best in-ring performer of all time. Shawn Michaels got his break. Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Bret Hart. You know, these were guys who suddenly started coming out of this generation, and they led the next generation. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash went to WCW. They formed the NWO, which, if you were in high school in the 1990s, you know there were kids walking around your halls wearing NWO T-shirts. Mm-hmm. They were the fucking coolest thing ever. Then Shawn Michaels and Triple H, who also cut his teeth during that New Generation era, suddenly they emerged in WWF as the Generation X. And now you're having an actual, a revolution almost on screen where it's becoming more realistic and they're putting in more actual storylines. And it changed the way the business was run. It changed it. And what they had to do, Ed, they had to purge before it could grow.
You love a purge.
Oh, you know we love a good purge. And Ed, I almost think that's where we're going now. I think it's going to have to almost hit rock bottom before it can come back up. And it's because something has to convince Vince McMahon that what he's doing isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not working. And I mean, who am I to tell a guy who's a fucking billionaire, I mean, a legitimate billionaire, that he's not doing his work right? I'm no expert. I don't claim to be an expert. I tell you what I like. I tell you what I see and the way I see it. But you know, the one good thing WWE has going is they have set up a minor league that they control. It's called NXT. I've told you it's fantastic wrestling. The storylines are really good. It's pulled off very well. You know, one thing that NXT has one thing NXT does not have that the WWE has?
What's that?
It doesn't have Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
It is younger. Basically, Triple H runs NXT. You have younger, more in tune people running the product that they actually consult on what's going to happen and then decide what's best for everything when it happens. The product down there is very strong. It's very healthy. They brought women's wrestling to the forefront down there. With actually, I mean, they have twice let the women main event, quote, a pay-per-view.
Wow.
At the NXT level, and both times they absolutely blew the house down. They're given time to actually wrestle, to tell stories, to do it the old way, which was, you know, be able to tell a story in the ring, have the build-up, and then be able to finish telling what we needed to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Where, you know, right now in WWE, it's kind of gotten to a point where suddenly if Vince McMahon gets bored of it or doesn't like it, okay, we just got to change everything. I mean, they leave storylines hanging. They just, it's really frustrating right now being a WWE fan. And then to top it off, they've gotten into this, what's called 50-50 booking. Here's my other thing. If I see you on TV every week, and you're fighting basically the same guy every week, and 1 week you win, and 1 week you lose, and the next week you win, and the next week you lose. How am I supposed to decide who the best guys are supposed to be?
It's a good question.
You know, I mean, hell, we watch baseball, we watch football. You know, let's take Rocky Mount, for example. If Rocky Mount goes out in week 1, they kick ass. All right. Week 2, they get their ass beat. Week 3, they kick ass. Week 4, they get their ass beat. What am I supposed to think of Rocky Mount? Well, they can be good, but they're not that good.
Yeah.
And basically, that's where the booking has gone at this point in WWE. Is they're not developing stars. I mean, and here's this weird, guys like Seth Rollins gets the belt, and suddenly looks worse. You know, suddenly then he can't win a match on his own. Mm-hmm. He has to have interference. They have to cheat for him. You know, guys get the Intercontinental title. Wade Barrett was the damn poster boy of this. You know, he kicks ass. He gets the title. Well, as soon as he gets the title, he starts losing every damn match he wrestles. But they're non-title matches, so it doesn't really matter. You're telling me it doesn't matter, but it's supposed to matter.
Right.
Yeah, how are you going to build a story up? I mean, you know, it's just like anything you watch on TV. You know, what's going to make me believe in wanting to continue to watch this if the guy you're telling me is the main guy sucks? And you're letting him openly suck. Because, I mean, we know by now, it's booking. It's written. It's a story. You're supposed to tell me a story. How can I get behind anyone to be the guy going forward if he loses as much